There's this tiny two-letter word that holds just an immense amount of power. It's a word that can feel, well, heavy, right? Like it's loaded with guilt. But what if I told you it's actually the key to unlocking a life of greater freedom and real intention? Yeah, that word is no. So let's just start with a quick question. How many times just this week have you said yes to something when every single part of you was just screaming no? If you're like most of us, the answer is probably, well, a lot more than you'd like to admit. And look, if you find yourself doing this, please know that it is not some kind of character flaw. Not at all. In fact, some fascinating research shows that we're pretty much psychologically poised to say yes. It's kind of our brain's default setting. And the why behind it all really breaks down to something fundamental about being human. As social creatures, we are just hardwired to cooperate. We have this deep evolutionary need to belong, to be part of the group. So a lot of the time, we say yes out of fear, fear of damaging a relationship or what it might do to our reputation. At its core, it's really a survival instinct kicking in. But here's the crucial turning point, the thing we so often forget. This is a zero-sum game. Every single time we say yes to something that doesn't really align with our own needs, we are automatically saying no to something else. We're saying no to our own rest, no to our own goals, no to our own well-being. So this is where we really have to reframe things. The myth we're all taught is that saying no is just selfish. But honestly, that's a trap, and it leads straight to burnout and resentment. The truth is, saying no is an act of profound self-respect. It's about honoring your own capacity, your own values, and that is the only real foundation for building truly healthy and sustainable relationships. And that brings us right to this idea of boundaries. Let's look at this really clear definition from therapist Nedra Glover-Tawwab. A boundary isn't a wall. It's simply the expectations and needs that help you feel safe and comfortable. It's all about creating the right conditions for a genuine, healthy connection. I love this because it illustrates the point so perfectly. A boundary isn't a moat you dig to keep everyone out for good. Think of it more like a bridge. It's a form of communication that basically says, hey, here is the path to connect with me in a way that feels good and respectful for both of us. And get this, it's not just a tool for your personal well-being, it is a straight-up strategy for high performance. This quote from Warren Buffett is so powerful. It really suggests that focus and success aren't just about saying yes to the right things, it's about having the discipline to say no to almost everything else so you can protect your time, your energy, and your most important priorities. All right, so how do we actually do this? Let's switch gears from the why to the how. Here are 4 really practical ways you can start delivering a more confident no. First, and this is probably the most important step of all, you have to know your yes. You can't set a boundary if you don't even know what you're protecting. So, what are your core values? What are your biggest priorities in this season of your life? When you have a bigger yes burning inside you, saying no to all the little distractions becomes so much easier. Number 2, the words you choose to use matter a lot. They send a signal, not just to other people, but to yourself, about how strong your conviction is. It's really about shifting from language that's kind of asking for permission to language that simply states your position. And here is the perfect example of that shift in action. Saying I can't sounds like something outside of your control is stopping you, right? It sounds like an excuse, and that just opens the door for negotiation. But saying I don't take meetings on Fridays, or I don't check emails after 6 p.m., that conveys a personal policy. It's a choice you've made, it is firm, it's clear, and it's not really up for debate. Okay, third, you've got to plan ahead. Anticipate those situations where you know your boundaries are going to get tested. If you have a family member who always asks for last-minute favors, or that one colleague who tries to pile on work at 5 o'clock, plan your response now. Thinking it through ahead of time makes you way less likely to get caught off guard and just slip back into that default yes. And finally, number 4, remember that no is a complete sentence. You really don't have to over-explain or justify your decision. You can be totally firm and direct while also being respectful. A calm, steady tone can deliver a boundary way more effectively than an aggressive or overly apologetic one ever could. Clarity really is kindness. So what's the end game here? What does all this lead to? Well, living a more boundaried life isn't about restriction at all. It's about expansion. Of course, it leads to less stress and burnout. But it's so much more than that. It leads to a deeper sense of self-worth, to relationships that are built on actual mutual respect, and maybe most importantly, more time and energy for the people and the projects that truly matter to you. If this way of thinking about building a life of intention and self-respect really connects with you, I'd like to personally invite you to subscribe to Rise Standard. We get into ideas just like this one every single week. So I'll leave you with a question to reflect on. What is just one thing in your life right now that you need to say no to so you can finally say a much bigger, more meaningful yes to yourself? I'd love to hear what you're thinking, so please share it in the comments below. Thanks so much for your time.